It is time. It is time, boys and girls, to talk about the best player in the world. And that player is Erling Haaland. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to try to put this in a more positive way to try and protect your favorite player. Erling Haaland, when it comes to this season or to the past season that just went, the 2022-2023 season, is the best player and should be winning the BALLON d'OR. And hopefully you can understand why towards the end of the video, why I believe Erling Haaland is the best player in the world, at least from last season, and deserves to win the BALLON d'OR. Now, with Erling Haaland, of course, just looking at his output last year, 53 games played, 52 goals scored. 52 goals scored. And the way that he was able to score those goals is really why he is so special. As I said before in many videos, just looking at goals and assists, in my opinion, is not the best way to compare players or analyze players. You of course have to do your due diligence to look at match performances, and we've done that in this channel. We've made at least 2 reactions on Erling Haaland's play from last year. So I said this is a real football channel. We're going to look at his stats, but we've looked at his stats before as well. We are going to look at the BALLON d'OR formula to understand why I think he deserves to win it, and how it has been done in the past. And hopefully Haaland is not robbed this year. You of course have the other candidates in Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. and KDB mainly, and I'll try to explain one by one why I think Erling Haaland should be winning it over those 4. And of course his performances this last year, where we analyze his physical attributes, his technical attributes, his tactical awareness, the way he was able to create a relationship with Pep Guardiola, and of course how his teammates, his supporting cast was able to aid him last year. Now, 2 years ago I made a video on Haaland, and I talked about how he was the next big thing up, how the hype even at Dortmund was not really hype, that he was the real deal, and how he would be coming very, very soon to be in these conversations. He was already in those conversations, but as a true threat, as a real candidate. And I think that this year is the start of that. Why is it the start of that? Why is Haaland now all of a sudden the best player in the world? Not all of a sudden, but why is he now the best player in the world? Why does he deserve to win the BALLON d'OR? Let's look at the BALLON d'OR formula. What is the BALLON d'OR formula, and how do they usually give it out to the best player in the world? Truth be told, it's not given out to the best player in the world. It's not always given out to who had the best season. It goes to, of course, players' individual performances, and that's where output really matters. How many goals you scored, how many assists you had, how you contributed to your team, and of course different areas of the pitch are measured in different aspects. That's why Neuer was able to be so impactful in 2014. That's why Modric won it in 2018. And of course, apart from the individual performances, the team performances that you had, the success that you had with your team, usually matters. To win the BALLON d'OR, you need to at least win a major trophy. Winning the Champions League gives you bonus points. Winning your respective domestic league is kind of needed. If you don't win the Champions League, then you need to have won that league, and if you win both, there's a pretty big chance you're going to win it. And of course, every 3 years when the World Cup comes around, that also helps you a lot. This isn't my preferred way to look at football. As I said before, team performances and individual performances don't always correlate, but at least the BALLON d'OR, for the most part, is not perfect. The BALLON d'OR is not perfect, but for the most part, it has given it out to the best player that season. And this is how it works, and this is where I believe Haaland matches that criteria. Again, his individual performances, the man scored 52 goals in 53 games. He completely destroyed the Premier League goal scoring record before the season even ended. So in terms of individual performances and output, Haaland ticks that box 1,000 times. Then you look at team success. With one of his competitors, which we'll get into a second, it kind of gets a bit more tricky, but Haaland just won the treble. The second English team ever United, of course, were the first to do it, but Man City last year also did it to win the treble, to win the Premier League, Champions League, and to win the FA Cup. That is a massive feat. And when you look at Messi's World Cup holds a lot of weight. But I think that if Haaland hadn't won the treble, or if he hadn't won the treble with Man City, there wouldn't really be a debate, because we'd definitely go to Messi because of the way the formula works. But because Haaland was able to do this, it kind of equals the playing field a bit more, because both of these players had historic performances with their team, but I think Haaland was a bit better individually. Now we look at his candidates. Of course, we just talked about Messi, but then, just to be kind of respectful, you could put Mbappe into the mix. But with Mbappe, although he had a good World Cup, had a historic World Cup, which of course is going to matter in the final votings, Mbappe in Ligue 1, although he performed well, is the Ligue 1. What? It's the Ligue 1, guys. Come on. I've talked about the Ligue 1 a lot. Compared to the Premier League, compared to what Haaland did in the Premier League, the best league in the world, I'm taking Haaland of Mbappe last year. Then you look at Vinicius Jr. He also had a very good year. Vinny also had a very good year last year, but it's just that Haaland was better. He just put up better performances, and his team, Man City, was better than PSG and Real Madrid. And Haaland's team, Man City, even went on to play Real Madrid, where they were able to beat Real Madrid. So in that 1-on-1 where they faced each other, Haaland took the dub. And the final candidate, I think KDB and Messi are the two players that probably have the biggest arguments against Haaland. Messi, of course, more than KDB slightly, because KDB and Haaland are in the same team. And I've seen people making the argument that KDB is the best player in that team. And I get that argument, but again, when it comes to what the BALLON d'OR favors, when it comes to the BALLON d'OR formula, the output that Haaland had cannot be questioned. Yeah, it was not questioned for Ronaldo and Messi all of those years. It was not questioned in the past for the likes of R9, the likes of Figo, all the players that would have won the BALLON d'OR. If it was not questioned for those guys, if they begin to question it this year for Haaland, I'll be extremely disappointed. Last thing I'll say about Messi and Haaland is Messi's individual performances last year. I don't want to just ignore those. It's very similar to what happened with Mbappe. Although Messi did perform amazingly in the World Cup, in the Ligue 1, it was lackluster. He was one of the best creators in Europe, of course, but in a league where PSG are far and away the most dominant, far and away the best team, far and away the team with the most money, when you compare to the Premier League with what Man City had to go through, you kind of begin to see why Haaland takes the edge. And again, this is why it's so important to look at things more than just goals and assists. And now we look at Haaland's performances last year. We're talking about Haaland. You have a 6'4" striker that is extremely strong, extremely fast. It's hard to compare Haaland. He's a freak of nature. He's a player that seems to have been made in the lab. He's a coach's dream of a striker. Tall, strong, and extremely fast. He ticks every box when it comes to his physical attributes, and then he also uses those attributes in his game to aid his performances. You of course had that Alphonsus Davies interview a few weeks ago where he talked about going up against Erling Haaland and how difficult it is to go up against a player that's that tall, that strong, and that fast, that doesn't need too many touches to be effective. Then you look at his technical ability. Yes, Haaland isn't the best dribbler in the world. Yes, Haaland isn't the best passer in the world. But when you look at his range of shooting technique, when you look at how well he's able to finish inside the box, you're looking at acrobatic finishes in the air, you're looking at shots from outside the box, you're looking at finesse finishes inside the box over the keeper, you're looking at his soft touch where he's able to be a tapping merchant when needed to. His technical ability, as far as goal scoring goes, is extremely prolific. That's the word. It's extremely prolific. I'm glad I was able to say that. The accuracy that he has as well is extremely impressive. So you're looking at his physical attributes and his technical ability. They go hand in hand to create this specimen of a striker. Then you look at his tactical awareness, which is, I think, Haaland's most underrated attribute, especially when you're playing under a manager like Pep Guardiola. You have to understand how the system works, and you have to be able to exploit the other team's weaknesses. You have a player like Haaland who is targeted by the opposition centre backs, because there's no other way to play against Erling Haaland, but he was still able to score 52 games because he's able to find the right spots. Even when inside the box, when he needs to be a tapping merchant, people just call him a tapping merchant. But how many players do we see doing what Haaland does at this high of a level? Call him a tapping merchant if you want to, he still gets the job done. Calling Haaland a tapping merchant just shows to me that those people don't really understand how the game of football works, and don't know how to appreciate a proper striker when they see one. And of course, Haaland does have an amazing supporting cast, but we've seen other players in the past with amazing supporting casts and not being able to get the job done. Haaland completed the task to the best of his ability. So all of these factors added together, all of these reasons are why I believe Haaland should win the Ballon d'Or this year, and why he's the clear winner. Please let me know in the comments, guys, who you think should be winning the Ballon d'Or this year, who's your Ballon d'Or winner, and if you agree with me or disagree with me when I say that Erling Haaland should be the winner of the Ballon d'Or. Again, it's quite close between him and Messi. You can even make an argument for Kevin De Bruyne, but I give it to Haaland at the end of the day. But anyways, guys, this is the end of the video. As I say at the end of all of my videos, please leave a like, please comment, please subscribe, share, do all those things to please help me grow this channel. You are much appreciated, and I'll see you guys soon.